Hello and welcome to Renew, the show about the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. The College of Forest Resources promotes and enables the conservation, management, and wise use of our natural resources. I'm your host, Leslie Berger. Today's show will feature the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture. One of the three units within the department or within the college. And here to represent that department is Assistant Professor Dr. Mike Colvin. So thank you for joining me today, Mike.
Thanks for having us.
One of our missions within the college, as I said in that opening statement, is to conserve our natural resources. And your role within the department is related to fisheries conservation. So how do you take that mission and your position here in the department and turn that into activities that you work on every day?
So a lot of my activities focus on decision making. And so while I do fisheries, I also have a big interest in how do we make decisions in a way that's transparent, repeatable, and matches management objectives. And so that translates pretty well to conservation of species because in a lot of cases endangered species and threatened species have very specific management objectives. And so a lot of my research focuses on how do we conserve and have management actions that affect endangered species. So, for example, we've got a project going on the Missouri River where we're building landscape level population dynamics models of this endangered species to start to evaluate different management alternatives and management actions that could potentially increase the population and eventually, ideally, delist the species if the population becomes sustainable again. So a lot of my research in terms of the conservation focuses on integrating that natural resource management, ecology, with a formal decision-making side to hopefully make better, smarter decisions on how we can conserve these species in a way that's transparent, repeatable, and can engage stakeholders.
Right, so when you're talking about decision making, you're not talking about me as an individual deciding how I'm going to spend my day. You're talking about how we as a society, how we as conservation organizations can take this different information, put it together, and make a decision that best meets the needs of the species, but also those of what you're calling stakeholders, those people that have a stake or a say or a vested interest in that.
Yes. So a prime example of that is the Missouri River work, where there's a management implementation committee that has stakeholders that include states, tribes, water users, recreation, navigation, all folks that have an interest on the Missouri River. And so the models that we develop and the decision analyses that we run take their objectives and human considerations into effect, that they can start to develop actions that won't unduly affect specific stakeholders, or if they do, they can evaluate the trade-off of one stakeholder versus another.
Right, because different people have different objectives, or different views of what needs to be done, and different perhaps values of the species you're talking about, or the species of concern. Some may value it highly, others may not see much value in that species, and trying to get all those together I can see would be very complicated. So how do you take that and then translate into what you do in the classroom? Because you're also a classroom instructor.
Right, so I use a lot of these examples. So I teach a graduate level natural resource and conservation decision making class where I take these case studies that we're doing, I call them case studies, and present them as examples of how we're using decision analysis to affect endangered species, or how we can use decision making to come up with ways to monitor more effectively and that sort of stuff. So I incorporate a lot of it in the class, mostly in the use of case studies.
Sure. You mentioned the Missouri River Project, and we have one of your graduate students who will be joining us later. She's going to explain more about what she's doing. So what are the kinds of projects that you have going on besides the Missouri River Project?
So we've got a project going with the Gulf Coast Plains Ozarks Landscape Cooperative, where we're starting to identify species throughout the regions of Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. This broad swath of states, we're starting to identify species that where they're distributed, just simply trying to take all the fish that are in the southeast, which is an incredible amount, hundreds of species in some cases, and figure out, just where are they on the landscape? Which watersheds do they have? Which watersheds don't they have? And so bigger synthesis of that so that we can start to take that and use that to strategize where to do landscape level actions. We've also got a project where we're doing something a little bit different, where we're looking at modeling virulent Eromonas, which is a problem in catfish ponds out in the Delta in East Mississippi. So working with some of the folks out in Stoneville, we've got a PhD student that's developing these models, and then we're going to use them to help inform management actions that farmers can take to minimize their economic impact of this pathogen. We've also got a project going on Enid Reservoir where we're putting out big, basically food plots, using agricultural plantings on these exposed mud flats when the reservoir gets drawn down, so that when it fills back up, fish can go in and use some of that vegetation to spawn or as habitat, refuge from predators and stuff like that.
Well, I'm really looking forward to hearing more about the kind of work you're doing. It's very exciting. I appreciate you coming by. And we'll learn more about the research that Dr. Mike Colvin has been doing in the Department of Wildlife Fisheries in just a few moments.
Want a career as big as the outdoors? Want to have an impact on the environment? The College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University delivers hands-on training, ensuring clean air and water, wildlife habitats, and a sustainable environment. Creating new wood products and retooling old ones for today and tomorrow. Find a career in whatever path you choose. Majors in forestry, natural resource and environmental conservation, sustainable bioproducts, wildlife, fisheries, and aquaculture. Want a career as big as the outdoors? Choose the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University.
Imagine a car designed to travel 100 miles on a single gallon of gas. Engineered to lead the way in energy independence. It will inspire you to rethink how cars actually work. Imagine the car of the future. We are at Mississippi State University, where we ring true.
Heard an echo down the well where my heart once hung. Hear my name ringing, ringing when I'm done. Hear my name ringing, hear it ringing. Hear my name ringing.
Welcome back to Renew, the show about the College of Forest Resources at Mississippi State University. Joining me now is graduate student Chelsea Gilliland from the Department of Wildlife Fisheries and Aquaculture. So thanks for coming by today.
Thank you for having me.
Let me just start with an easy question. I know you've got a busy day and I don't want to make it things hard. What path led you to pursuing a master's degree in fisheries?
Well, there's a lot of paths that really led me to where I am today, starting with simply taking ichthyology as an undergraduate student. That really stemmed a lot of my passion. I originally wanted to study wildlife populations, and that kind of just changed my whole perspective on natural resources. And then I actually ended up working a couple jobs with the Illinois Natural History Survey and had some really great mentors and coworkers that really allowed me to learn from their experience, and through them sharing their wisdom with me, I knew there was nothing else that I could ever love as much as I love studying fish populations.
That's really good. That's good. So tell me a little bit about the project. You're almost done. Today is a big day. It's what we call your defense, where you're wrapping up. So tell me just a little bit about what you were doing in your project.
So I'm looking at paddlefish population dynamics, movement, and spawning success for paddlefish that are present throughout Noxubee National Wildlife Refuge. So basically, we're modeling their population dynamics and changes over time. I have implanted acoustic transmitters to track movements throughout the Noxubee watershed and beyond, and then we're also looking for signs of reproduction via egg or larval capture.
Okay. So I know your work was, as you said, was done there at Noxubee, but it was done in a very public location in Noxubee, which is it's a big area, 40,000 plus acres, but you were like right by the road.
Yeah.
And in a very public setting. So what were some of the things that people would ask you about, because you were doing something very unusual?
Yeah, you know, every day is a little bit different. It's a mixed bag, but I would say there are very few days which we didn't have public interaction. We were very frequently being visited by passersby, or even just the friends of the Noxubee group, interns and such. And we received a lot of feedback. Some people were just amazed that paddlefish were in that little pool that we were working in.
Right.
That was probably the most astounding discovery for them. Some of them had never seen one before, and so that was an opportunity to promote awareness for the species throughout the refuge, and even just the species in general. And then a lot of people, I think, working with the children, there was a lot of kids that were involved, and that was just something that I know that they'll keep with them, you know, as they grow, and hopefully inspire a passion for natural resources and conservation. And then we got your occasional person that was just shocked that a woman could drive a boat. So quite a mixed bag of interactions.
Did you see yourself as a role model in any of that? Or an ambassador for conservation? Or?
Yeah, in some ways. I think it was a good way for me to promote awareness for fisheries and for women in fisheries especially, and we received a lot of really good feedback, a lot of opportunities for education and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So one of the questions I get asked a lot because of my position in the department is, you know, is this a good career choice? And you know, can I find a job? And you know, if I am a woman, you know, is this even possible for me? Because a lot of times people just don't understand what their options are. What would you say to, say, a young high school girl that came up to you that was down there at that and watched you driving a boat and hauling in big nets with very large fish in it? What would you say to her about possibilities of a career in fisheries?
I would say that we have just as many opportunities as anybody else if you're willing to work hard and make it known that you are capable of competing with anybody, whether it's a male or a female, somebody old or young, it doesn't matter. As long as you're willing to work hard and put in the effort, you have just as good a chance as anybody else, especially if that's truly your passion.
Sure. So we only have about a minute left, but so you can tell me just this really, you know, the most memorable thing you've had happen here in your time at Mississippi State?
I think my most memorable thing, well, honestly, was just catching paddlefish. Right. It's as simple as that. I'd never seen one before I came here. A lot of my ichthyology lectures were focused around paddlefish, as my advisor worked with paddlefish in Pennsylvania. And the most memorable thing that I'll have to take with me is just seeing that first paddlefish surface and a gill net. Right. My first day of sampling was just,
it's great.
It's just very surreal.
Right.
And
well, I'm
to
glad
think
you
of
got that
where
opportunity.
we came.
Yeah, it's really just an amazing species, and I wish you the best as you move forward with the rest of your career. I know today's a big day, so I appreciate you taking time. For the rest of you, thank you for visiting here us at Renew, and I hope that you'll return again in the future.